College Station. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Y'all had a good meeting this week. Had a lot of folks come in.
Yeah, we did, and some of them were for the proclamation. Some of them were for here visitors. The pickleball folks were out in force.
They were.
Have a strong case to make, and City College Station is very much interested in working on lots more facilities for pickleball.
What are the kind of things you have to take into account when you say, okay, this is a facility, we can add pickleball to it, or we can change this to pickleball?
Well, some of it, a lot of it was guided by public hearings we had, and certainly the Anderson Park area, which is going to be the pickleball facility, was the result of a lot of public input. So given where that park is and what its alternative uses were, that seemed like a pretty logical thing. I think the other concerns that they were talking about was tennis versus pickleball, and can they organize together and use the same courts, and that's really what they were supporting, the Bachman Park tennis courts being available for pickleball and set up for it. Pickleball has also got the option of bringing your own nets. So a lot of these courts, you bring your own nets to them. The Anderson Field project is going to be just for pickleball, not for tennis.
Sure. Parks with restrooms that are air conditioned and not air conditioned. We had a discussion earlier this morning. Kind of like to get your thoughts.
Well, I did hear some of that. I must say, yes. I can't remember what Chelsea said. Something about several $1 million. Our park, our building is not just a restroom; it's a storage building. And it is converted from what we originally had planned when we built the foundation to both a restroom and a storage building. It's about 2,400 square feet. I believe the Bryan facility they're talking about is about 1,300 square feet. So I think their budget is $1.3 million for this building, which includes the access to the water and facility utilities and all that to a greenfield location, which has never been developed before. And it is air conditioned. And I won't comment on the trade-outs on that, but we believe restroom facilities have got to be air-conditioned in Texas if you're going to be functional.
People. Doors in the bathrooms at Wolfgang Creek.
Well, yeah. My only comment there is I suggest to Chelsea is she not wear rompers anymore. But I don't know.
Not when I go to Wolfgang Creek Park. You're right.
Exactly. I don't know that restrooms are probably 25, 30 years old over there. I just want to make a comment about the distinction between private and public investment in things like restroom facilities, for example, or other facilities like City Hall. We build on behalf of the citizens for a very long term, and restrooms are included in that. If I'm in the private sector, I build something, I'm expecting a return on that investment in 7 to 10 years, 15% return on my investment, something like that. So then I can turn that property and I don't worry about what it looks like in 40 years. The city's got to think about the long-term maintenance and upkeep of those buildings. So we put more money into those kinds of facilities, and they get a lot of use. I think Sean was commenting, well, you could build a whole house out there and just open up the restrooms. I don't know about his house, but if you had 500 people a day using the restroom in my house, it wouldn't look very good at the end of the day. So it's a long-run versus short-run, public versus private kind of investment question.
Spoken like a true economist, which you are, and I understand that does make sense. I'd like to talk a little bit about the ball fields. Obviously, we're on to the next stage there. What are we going to do?
Well, the proposal is that's being recommended to us is to take the undeveloped land at Veterans Park along University Drive, and we can add 3 full-size baseball fields there. We can't add 4. We can add 3 plus some more parking, which would be needed if you added a little bit more usage out there. So that adds 3 fields to what we already have of the Little League fields and other smaller fields across the city. The idea of maybe taking 1 or 2 of the softball fields, there's 5 softball fields next to it, and extending the fences, there's 1 or 2 that you could do that. There's a lot of tight fit in there given the land, the lot lines and so forth. To add a 4th field, and then you can, in any of these fields, you put temporary fences in for Little League and for 250 kind of uses, but you got the 350, which is what we're going to build, the full-size fields.
Do you have any opportunity for acquisition of additional land back there at all?
There have been off and on conversations with the university. They don't want to sell the building. There is some room back there of that area that leads out of the old TI plant, which the university owns. We could perhaps someday get some of that, but that's not in these discussions at all.
So let's go back and talk about reclaiming the land that is not going to be used. How are you going to be able to repurpose that?
Well, we're calling it Texas Independence Park, and that doesn't have ball fields in it. We've had a couple of student groups making pretty good analyses of that, providing some good strategic ideas. It's going to be off-road bicycle, some open areas, pump track, which younger kids use. Apparently, you never actually pedal a bike. You just go up and down over hills, and they really enjoy that. That's another part of what's going to go out there. There'll be more passive uses, trails and so forth on that. And we noticed we also did a zoning change on the last piece of land between Midtown Development and the park. And there's all kinds of connective trails from that Midtown Development into this park. So it'll be a nice regional park, but have a lot more passive uses to it.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to ask, in this day and time, as we sit in 2024, how could we have gotten into a situation where we didn't know that the land was going to be this big a problem, and how do you extract yourself from that?
Well, we are extracting ourselves from that, as you can see, and it's not very pleasant, not something you really ever want to have happen. The geotech information apparently wasn't sufficient to really make the decisions they made about building on top of that artificial turf, which is really the issue. Is the artificial turf on top of that has to be structured and supported really well, otherwise you get the tremendous decline and deterioration of that field. And we wanted to build artificial turf on that, so it got into that situation. And I mentioned to you just earlier that we're finding that same soil condition actually is not just endemic to that piece of property, but goes across Rock Prairie and down in that area. So we've got some issues regarding the next phase of Rock Prairie East, and we will build it. It's just going to take more base and more work to build that base for the rest of Rock Prairie. Not the part we're building now, but that section in there. And anybody who's driven on Rock Prairie East knows that the condition of that road kind of goes up and down a little bit, and the base deteriorates, gets a lot of traffic. When we get to that section, we'll have some different discussions about the base.
So that's going to end up probably being more expense involved, and what other development outside the road would be impacted?
Yeah, if you're building a home or something, you put piers down, and you can deal with that. But if you're building a road, you got to have a good base all the way, and it'll require the engineers to rework the design for that. And of course, we're just getting into the design phase, so they've got plenty of time to do that.
But if you're doing development out there, and you do have to put the piers in, that would impact the project.
Well, I think depending on the private land side, I can't comment on that. I'm just talking about the road and that area in general. I think it's just going to take more effort. And look at the historic legacy east side. Those streets down there in the older part of the east side of College Station, built with slabs. The soil down there was sliding away, and you had cracking, and you had all kinds of problems. And they learned how to build slabs better now. So I think that and the piers is what modern construction really requires.
Sure. Anything else for us?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that tonight there is, if I can get into my phone here, street maintenance. People are always interested in how we decide to schedule street maintenance. There's an open house tonight at 5:30 to 7:30 at City Hall. You can learn about what our 4-year maintenance plan is. Emily Fisher, our Director of Public Works, highlighted that at a meeting a couple of weeks ago and talked about that. But this is a chance for people to really engage in what's going on there. At noon today is the 37th Annual Law Enforcement Memorial Service out at Veterans Park. And also at noon today, I'm speaking on the Mayor's Crystal Ball at the Exploring History luncheon that they have at the Ringer Library. This is once a year or once every couple of years. The mayor gets to talk a little bit about where we're going and what we're doing. So I've got a presentation there. Starlight Music Series is Saturday night. It's a second installment. They're going to be 6 o'clock, and the concert starts at 7. So lots of parking available. And never forget Gardens Memorial out at Veterans Park next Tuesday, the 21st, I believe it's Tuesday the 21st at 11 a.m. That's going to be quite an interesting opening of that new feature in Veterans Memorial area. So lots of things going on at College Station.
Okay. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Okay.